And welcome everyone to our post-episode Game of Thrones recap. This will not be recorded live, so I don't know if that matters. But yeah, this video will be its own separate thing on YouTube. We're recording it, but it will be plugged into the normal episode if you're listening via via the podcast. It'll be just plugged in after the outro, just like usual. So. But we're going to be recapping Season 8, Episode 2 of Game of Thrones called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the episode starts off with, the previous episode ended with Jaime finally arriving at the North and getting the Bran death stare. And the episode starts with him not on trial, but, answering for his previous crimes in front of everyone there, well, most of the people there who hated him. So
yeah,
that's,
I think there was only one person there that didn't hate him. Well, two maybe.
Two.
There's probably a few who were indifferent about him.
Right.
Yeah.
But he only had two allies there for sure, being Tyrion and ultimately Brienne. But
yes,
it was really interesting because it was Daenerys talking about the things her and her brother would do to the man that killed their father, despite her at that point kind of knowing what the Mad King was and what he did. It's still someone murdered your father,
right?
Yeah, and that's not getting too far ahead of myself here, but that's one of the first times I've really started to question whether I even really like Daenerys.
Yeah.
In this episode, there were a few times where I'm like, man, I think somebody just needs to kill her at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's coming.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Well,
they definitely want her to be at least partially portrayed, not necessarily a villain, but as someone who could potentially go Mad Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and despite a later conversation she has with the character, her primary thing that she wants to do still is take the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we hear that a couple of times.
Yeah.
Through this episode. Yeah, I think I'm with you. This was the first time that I was kind of the whole Randall Tarley thing. I was like, that's kind of not good.
Yeah.
And then this time, the way she was talking, she was angry. She was clenching her teeth, even to at Jorah, about Tyrion. But there was just a different level of anger that I hadn't seen from her, even in her speech. And that was very telling to me.
Yeah, and it was just last episode that she upset another character for killing that character's father. So, you're kind of being kind of a hypocrite here, Daenerys.
Yeah. It's true, I never thought of that.
And I think the one thing I was really frustrated with the Jaime scene is that Brienne and Bran, neither of them said anything about why Jaime ultimately did that. Because I think that completely changes.
It doesn't seem like anyone knows that the reason why Jaime killed him was to keep him from blowing up all of King's Landing.
Right. They knew he was crazy.
Yeah.
So they're probably like, yeah, you probably did us a favor, but they don't know the actual, what actually happened.
Yeah, I was surprised that didn't come up. You're right.
I was disappointed.
It was just, because Sansa calls him out, too, for attacking Ned Stark in the streets. And, to Jaime's credit, he's like, I did what I did for the betterment of my family. We were at war. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'd do it again.
Yeah.
So good for him for standing up for, himself and what he believed in.
Do you think, just going back to your previous point about the truth of why he's the Kingslayer, do you think that's just a plot hole that they're like, oh, we just kind of got to avoid saying this at this point? Or do you think there's a reason why it's not coming out?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird at this point that, no one other than Jaime and Brienne know.
Right.
Obviously, Bran Stark would probably know, too, but...
It is strange. When Jaime was kind of looking at Brienne, I was like, he's motioning to her to, come to his aid and, stick up for him and explain what happened. And, she just was just like, I vouched for him, which was fantastic. But it doesn't get to the point of, what was actually happening when he killed, when he killed him. There were serious things happening.
Seriously, yeah.
So... yeah, I don't know. But I really liked that scene just because I am a big Brienne and Jaime fan. And so it was just interesting to see them interacting again. And then we see it a lot again in this episode. There was a lot of them together. So I think it's interesting because Brienne's so awkward around him and he doesn't really know what to think of himself around her. I don't know. I think there's just a lot to that. And I have I have a like theory of what's going to happen, but I don't know. Should I say?
Yeah, we'll continue. Well,
Okay, so let's keep going. So what happens next?
one of the things the important things is John kind of snubs Daenerys. She looks to him for support after that, and he's just kind of like, "Your Grace," and gets up and walks away. And I think that sets her off even a little bit more because then when they're walking in the hall, that's when she snaps at Tyrion for all the mistakes that he's made. And that's when Jorah. I think that's the point. Is that the point where Jorah comes in and talks to her? Is like,
it's eventually, yeah.
You need to cut Tyrion some slack. He was a good choice for a hand, and he's made some mistakes, but we all have, type of thing.
Yeah,
and vouches for nice. Tyrion as a good pick for Daenerys.
Yeah, because that's
Hand of the Queen.
Right, and then that's where Jorah also says, like, I have another request. And they don't show what he says, but then that's the next scene that unfolds. Yep. Is Sansa. Yep. And Daenerys.
Yeah, so Daenerys goes to meet Sansa to offer an olive branch to her. Because they obviously were kind of at each other's throats a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the thing, and it's another great scene if you want to explain what happens.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I think Daenerys does a really good job of like showing how they're alike, and she's like, we have these things in common, but why is there this divide? And Sansa's like, oh, I should have been thankful from the time that you showed up, and they do make a strong connection, and you're like, okay, well, they're gonna get along. And then Sansa gets like real, what about afterwards? Like, what's gonna happen to the North? We got this back and we still want it. And then they were like, Sansa, like, or Daenerys had her hand on Sansa's hand, and she kind of pulls it back and is like wiggling her fingers, like, I don't know what to tell you because, again, I'm showing some Mad Queen tendencies here, and I'm being angry. Yeah. So I thought it was a great scene because it showed, Daenerys wants to get along with her, and they talk about, that's what it is. Dany says, like, I didn't persuade John. John persuaded me because I love him. Like, I was here to fight a completely different war, and now I'm fighting John's war for him. So who persuaded who was her point. Yep.
That's an important tidbit to take out of that conversation, too. Yeah,
especially because Daenerys is always, like, all-powerful, making all these decisions, getting rid of slavery and all this stuff. But she actually says, like, no, I did this because of him. And everything she's done up to this point has basically been her decision. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I also liked how at the end of that scene before they were interrupted, I felt like Sansa had like the power in that room in that moment. And that was weird to me because Sansa has been so passive. I mean, last season, obviously, when she came into power is a little bit different, but I don't know. It's just good to see her, like, I looked up to her in that moment, and I hadn't up until that point.
Yeah, not afraid to stand up to the Dragon Queen,
right?
At all. She was channeling a little bit of Cersei there, channeling a little bit of Littlefinger there.
Yeah,
she's learned a lot.
Yeah,
she has. Like it, I think Tyrion makes the point in the first episode, like, so many people that doubted you, they're all dead now.
Yeah,
and it's so true. Like Sansa's really done a lot of amazing things and survived a lot of horrible things. So good for her for being like, no, I'm not backing down for anybody right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So after that, they get interrupted by Maester Walken, and it's because Theon has arrived at Winterfell with a handful of Ironborn to pledge his support for Sansa. I was surprised by Sansa's reaction here. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Like, they show Sansa and Theon twice.
Yeah.
And she's, like, in love with him. Like, that was totally, like, the instant I saw her face, especially the second scene, like, later on when they're sitting together, you know, before the poop's gonna hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's looking at him like she loves him. And I was like, whoa, didn't expect that, like, that at all.
Yeah, and it's
That
not
was
like
interesting.
love like a brother.
No.
It's like romance love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Whereas in the
definitely romance
past,
love.
I felt like it's love like a brother because
Mhm.
Sophie and I on our rewatch, I think we ended in the middle of season 5, and it was right around the time where Sansa sees Theon in the dog pits in Winterfell, and that was a similar kind of moment where she showed this affection for him, but it wasn't like love, like romance, like we saw in this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was surprised by that. So
It was very surprising. I don't know what that could mean,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, obviously she's thankful for him helping her escape her situation, but
Right.
yeah, very thankful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
what do we
then,
got next?
Tormund, Beric, and Ed show up, right?
Yep.
That's the next part.
I think so. We might have
Yeah.
these scenes slightly out
Yeah.
of order, but we'll try to cover everything.
Yeah.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
yeah. So they just say, like, you have before the sun comes up tomorrow. And it's like, oh, crap. Like, okay, so we better get things moving. Okay, so then after that, they're in the council, like the war council meeting, where everybody's all there together talking about their strategy. So that's where Bran says, the Night King's going to come for me because he's marked me and he's done it to Three-Eyed Ravens in the past.
Can
That's
I
interesting.
hit you guys up for some lore here? So
Yeah.
why is the Three-Eyed Raven so important? And why would the Night King target him?
I don't know if they're supposed to be like nemesis,
Like fire and ice,
Yeah,
steel and
yeah,
blood.
yeah,
kinda.
kind of. That the three-eyed raven is supposedly they talk about this a little bit, but the three-eyed raven is sort of the check to the Night King's power. So the Night King wants to erase mankind, erase the memories of mankind. The three-eyed raven is literally like all the knowledge of mankind in one being, in one person, all the memories and everything.
Right.
Let
Yeah.
me ask a 4-year-old's question.
Sure.
Why?
Why what?
Why does the Night King want to erase?
Because
Man.
they were created by the children of the forest to
Yeah.
eradicate men
That's
from
right.
from the world people. I
Right.
say men,
'Cause-
but people.
Yeah, because people were destroying the
Yeah.
earth,
Yeah,
essentially.
and the
Gotcha.
habitats of the children of the
Right.
forest.
And that's why I think a lot of people, when all that Children of the Forest stuff came out, they were like, oh, George R.R. Martin is writing about global warming or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, if I wanted to write about global warming, I'd write about global warming. He's like, this is not like a nod to
Not everything
anything.
is political, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Not everything's
Which I
allegory,
appreciated.
and
Right.
Tolkien fans should know that because
Right.
he hates allegory. So
Yes. Yep. Yeah, so that's where Theon steps up and says, like, I'll go with Bran and bring the Ironborn, and I'll be there with
protect him.
to protect him. Which I don't know if that leads to some of Sansa's affection too, because she sees that he's trying to right his wrongs.
Yeah, and that he specifically states, I took Winterfell from you, so let me help you defend it now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I'm sorry. I just have so many questions, and
It's fine.
No, it's good.
I didn't really care for this episode either, to be honest.
Oh, really? See, I loved it.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say that. Like people who also said they didn't like the first episode loved this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I weird pacing or something, and maybe it's because everybody's in the same place now, so there's less
Mhm.
jumping around, so
Yeah.
it's a little more.
Yeah.
It breathes a little bit more than it used to in the past.
Yep.
Maybe that's why I'm just not used to it. But why Theon and the Ironborn to protect Bran?
I don't know. I think it's slightly symbolic, but I also think they're planning on laying a bigger trap for the Night King than
Oh, you think
just
so?
having. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because I'm pretty sure because at one point they ask Arya asks if Dragonfire is enough to kill the Night King. So I think they're planning on having
Yeah.
more than just I think the dragons are supposed to be there. I think John
Yeah.
is supposed to be around.
Right.
Yeah,
They
at
never
some point.
mention the dragons.
Well, they do, because they ask if the
Right?
dragon fire is enough to kill the Night King.
Okay. Right.
Didn't
but
they
that's all
say-
we hear.
Didn't they say the dragons would be there with Bran to
I
protect him?
don't think with Bran. I think they're supposed to be lingering like on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
far enough away that Bran looks vulnerable, but close enough where they can get there fast enough so he doesn't expire before they have a chance to save him.
So John's gonna ride in on a dragon to save Bran.
I don't know
Oh
ultimately
my God,
what's
I
going to
don't
happen.
know. It's so stressful. Yeah. So this.
There was the brief. Sorry, Val, not to interrupt,
No,
but
yeah.
I don't want to forget the Missandei and Grey Worm
Yes.
scene. Just the quick, like, what are we gonna do after?
Yep.
To me, that's like, okay, you're both dead. I don't know. Like that was
Probably.
their farewell, in my opinion.
Probably.
Yeah.
No, I could totally see that. Yeah, because they'll go back to the beaches of Noth. Is it Noth?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I could totally see that. Is this also where Jorah and Sam have their interaction?
That was closer towards the end, I think.
Okay, so we'll get to that. So I guess the next scene is Gendry and Arya.
Nope, not quite yet.
Not yet.
So
Dang it.
Arya-
I'm so ready to talk about
It's the Hound sitting on the wall.
Hound and Arya. How could I
just
forget
sitting
this?
there having a drink. She sits down next to him. He gives her a hard time because she never used to shut up, and now she won't say anything.
Yeah. Now you're a mute.
And then Beric Dondarrion comes, and the Hound threatens to throw him over the wall.
Yep.
And then Arya gets up and leaves.
Right. Yeah. But I loved that. I love to see Arya and the Hound together
Yeah.
because they have such a weird dynamic. But I think there you saw a little bit more of their like love for each other, like their weird way of caring about each other.
Yeah.
So then Arya goes and finds Gendry, right?
No, she goes to practice archery. Gendry finds her
Yes,
because he
Gendry
finally
finds
built
her.
her weapon,
Right.
which is a spear with dragon glass tips on either side. It's for whatever reason, it seems like at least one of the sides, the dragon glass tip can detach.
Yeah. That
I don't
looked
know
like
if
that
it's
from the
supposed to shoot or if it's supposed to detach or what, but yeah, he finally finished her weapon.
I don't know what it's supposed to do, Dan, but I can guarantee you it's going to save the day at some point.
Probably,
God, I hope so.
at least in some way.
And I just got thinking about the weapon, the way she was spinning around and stuff. It was very much like what
Yeah.
she battled the waif
Yeah.
with, what they battled each other with. So
Yeah, one
it's a
scene
weapon
we
she's
didn't
comfortable
talk
with.
about that happened towards the beginning of the episode. She found him in the forges and was giving him a hard time because he didn't do her weapon.
Yeah.
And she throws 3 daggers and just goes like right in a row.
Yeah. And he's like,
To
"Whoa."
show like I need you to do this for me.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's a special request.
Because no one knows, other than Bran, I guess, like what she's
What she's
she
capable
is,
of.
who she is.
Bran a little bit because they fought
Yeah,
each other.
yeah.
In sparring. But
Right. And Sansa has a little bit of an idea because she found a bag of faces.
yes.
Because that's what
but
that's what
in-
most 18-year-old girls carry around.
Yep. An interesting thing that because she asked Gendry because he had fought some of the dead, some of the whites, and saw the fight with the White Walker. She asked him, how do they move? How do they smell? Like,
Right,
what do
what
they
do they-
like? Trying to get information. People are wondering if she's going to try somehow to get a face of a white maybe and try to get close to the
What?
Night King that way.
What?
Just throwing that out there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's part of her, faceless man training.
Huh? But wouldn't I feel like that would turn her into a white.
I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we don't know.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, back to the scene. Oh, but yeah, so they find each other. They're talking to each other. Gendry reveals that he is the bastard of Robert Baratheon.
And her eyes are like,
yeah,
bing.
her eyes light up when she hears that. So
yeah.
Who else knows that?
Melisandre,
Melisandre.
Davos,
I was gonna
Jon
say,
Snow,
yeah.
because he tells
He tells
Jon
him. Yeah.
That's
against Davos's wishes.
Yeah. Yeah. I called this way back when like Arya was Ari and all of that. I called this so long ago. So to see it come to fruition, I was like, yes, like I knew it. It was a little cringy for me at some times, just because I was not used to seeing Arya like be a human. I don't, you know, I don't know.
You mean?
Yeah, like being an adult.
Being human, because
yeah,
you feel like her humanity gets snuffed out a little bit when she becomes a faceless man.
Right, because like she has a good connection with Sansa and with Jon, of course, and those are very real. But they're like, this is it's a different level. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Well, it's basically like she's welcoming an outsider.
Yeah. Someone outside of
there's
her
a pun there that
family.
I'm going to avoid saying, but those people are Starks. I mean,
Right.
we know John's not actually, but
Right.
she grew up with them. That's family. Like, she's
Right.
going to be close with them. She's going to show her human side to them.
Right.
Somebody, an outsider. It was, and I felt the same way as you, Val. It was cringy for me too because of that. I see a lot of people reacting that it's cringy because they think of Arya as like little 12-year-old Arya.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, we've seen Arya do so many things that like some lovemaking is gonna shock you about like things that she's done.
Yeah,
Right.
especially when everyone's kind of getting themselves used to the idea that they might not be alive for much longer.
Right. Like, good for her. Go Arya. Like.
Part of me too was like, I don't even know if she loves Gendry. He's just maybe the best option she has in the moment. I don't know.
Sure.
But then there was that part of me after they were done where I'm like, oh my God, is Arya pregnant with Gendry's baby?
I had the same exact thought. Exact
thought. We've just been tuned to think that way.
Carrying on the Baratheon line.
Yeah.
Seriously. But like Robert said to Ned in the first season, like
I have a son, you have a daughter. Let's join our houses.
Well, this is like actually joining their houses because it's actually his and actually Ned's, and so it's, I don't know. There's so many things that are interesting there, but I loved it, and it was really interesting too to see her scars.
I was going to ask about those. What are those indicating?
Just the beating that she took when she was in the Faceless Man training.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because even Gendry's like, whoa, for a second, like, yee, what's up with the huge slits that you have all over your body?
Maybe I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, what's going to happen here? Yes, so, yeah. But it was great. And again, the acting.
Yeah.
I've talked about it at length, but it's just so good.
Yep.
And you said Arya is your favorite character, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was, the acting. I found her surprisingly seductive.
Yeah.
When she was, egging Gendry on a little bit, which again is another side of her we haven't seen at all.
No.
Yeah, she was been a little bit flirty with him the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the way she was. So
yeah,
it wasn't wholly unexpected for me, because it seemed like that's what she was kind of trying to do anyway.
Yeah. When she took her gloves off, I was like, it's on. This is happening.
No, it was on when she found out that he was a Baratheon bastard.
True.
And he wasn't just a common dude.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that would matter to her, but it very well might have. Well, at least it sealed the deal, I think.
Right. And I mean, it's kind of like she's probably thinking of Ned, honestly. Like,
yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, like, this is my father's best friend's son. Like, and they're both gone, so I'll make a connection.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess anything else with that scene?
No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the next scene is when Tyrion and Jaime are sitting around the fire, and who comes in first? Brienne?
No, well, first the scene starts with Tyrion saying, "I wish Father were here."
Oh yeah. Jaime's like, really?
What? But then
I missed that line.
No,
yeah.
See, we have to watch it with subtitles on.
Yeah,
because
it helps so much.
Yeah,
and we usually, because the action scenes and stuff are so loud and the loud noises are so loud and the dialogue is very quiet comparatively.
Yeah.
That instead of changing the volume all the time, we just keep it a little lower and have closed captioning on.
Yeah,
so.
I highly recommend the closed captioning.
Yeah.
Because I've learned so much more about the show from like little conversations that I like would miss, you know, in a moment. And I'm like, oh my God, that was so important, especially with Littlefinger, I found, because his speech is like, it's harder to read his lips because he kind of talks like with his mouth closed. Yeah, the captions have been huge for us.
But yeah, Tyrion clarifies that he's like, I would like to see the look on his face when he finds out his 2 sons are gonna die defending Winterfell.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. Yeah, so that's when Brienne comes in with
Brienne and Pod.
And then Davos and Tormund come in.
That was it felt fan servicey to me.
Yeah.
But not like, I mean, it also made sense. So like, I don't know how to, I have mixed feelings about that whole sequence because part of me thinks like I could watch a whole season of people or those guys around that hearth just talking and communicating about everything that happened, because I feel like there's still a lot of loose ends and a lot of conversations that haven't happened yet that could. But it's like, how do you cram all that into this one episode right before this major war? So they like cherry picked what was maybe the most important, but then you had that whole bit with Tormund explaining, I mean, I guess that was useful information, Tormund explaining how he got the Giant's Bane nickname.
I freaking love that.
It didn't feel like the right time for comedic relief, but I mean, maybe it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me.
It was for me only because the amount of time I've spent watching Game of Thrones is sickening. And we're looking at the very real possibility of losing a lot of these characters that, you know, I've watched for however many seasons. So it was nice to see them let their hair down in front of the fire. I mean, like if I found myself in that position, if I wasn't like Davos and off on my own, you know, walking away so I can shit my guts out, I would be in front of the fire, probably drinking and telling stories. That's what I would be doing. So that was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a coworker today, who came in my office, making it sound like we were gonna have a real big official conversation, flinging stuff, and he closed the door and he's like, "Tell me what you thought of the 2 episodes." It was fantastic. Yeah, like I was saying, you know, we've watched this through so many times that we just have a different level of attachment to the characters, I think. So for me, I was like, I need this last like farewell, because potentially like some of these characters are probably not going to be here after a week or two. And even if they are still there, like there's only 4 episodes left anyway. So for me, it was nice to just like hear the Tormund story and, you know, just to see them kind of being the characters that they are. So I really appreciated it.
Yeah. So that was only part of that scene. I think the important part was you know, talking about, I don't know how it came up, doesn't matter, but Brienne was not an actual knight. Tormund, you know, is perplexed by this because, you know, where they're from, women fight equally with the men. So yeah, he's like, you know, if I was a king, I would knight you 10 times over. And Jaime's like, you don't need to be a king to knight someone, and he knights Brienne, a knight of the 7 kingdoms. Very, very touching moment.
Yeah.
The pessimist took over in me in that moment, and I'm thinking like, is he right about that? Like, can you be a knight and knight somebody? Or is he just making that up? Because what does it matter at this point?
Yeah,
right.
That's what I thought. But I mean, I think it is accurate. I think he did actually make her a knight, but I don't know.
Have the power to do so.
Yeah. The room got dusty for me on that scene. Again, I think just going back to like, I'm a big Brienne and Jaime fan, and like I love Brienne. I can't pick a favorite character. I honestly can't, because I could say Brienne, I could say the Hound. Like I used to be able to say Tyrion, not as much because he's kind of like disgruntled or something now. he
kind of got soft once he met up with Dany.
He did, yeah. But yeah, I loved that part. It was very nice touch for the whole thing. So the next part is when Sam and Jorah have their interaction.
Yeah. So it pans to outside, and you hear Jorah talking to Lyanna Mormont, and
Yes.
Jorah's urging her to stay out of the fray, the melee, because she's the last. I think she might be the last person of
think you're
House Mormont.
right. Because he said that you're the future of our.
Not just the future, but I think she might be the only Mormont left. Because a lot of her older sisters and mom were killed at the Red Wedding. So
They were?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. Because the house went to, because Jorah was the only son of Jeor Mormont. The house went to Jeor's sister, I believe, Mage Mormont, and her kin. So I think she had one older sister, maybe two, that were killed at the Red Wedding. I could have that wrong. It might just be one, but I know at the very least her mom was killed at the Red Wedding. So
That's
yeah.
awful.
But yeah, he's urging with her, but ultimately, she's like, no, I'm fighting.
Right.
I'm not gonna cower in the crypts with the rest of them.
Anyway.
What's that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking to myself about the crypts.
And then Sam comes to Jorah. So
Yes. So Sam basically, says, like, this is my house's sword, and I can't hold it upright, so I would like it to be used in battle, and your father, made me a man in the Night's Watch. So he gives him Heartsbane, the Tarly family Valyrian steel sword, and Jorah takes it gladly and, says, I'll carry it. What did he say? Like, I'll carry it with honor, or
yeah,
something along those lines. And I don't know. It was a nice moment, especially like how Sam's been like punched in the gut, with the death of his father and brother. So I thought it was really nice.
Yeah.
So Lyanna Mormont was the only child of Mage Mormont.
Okay.
Who I don't know if you remember seeing her.
I do remember her now.
She was in the King of the North scene, the first one.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a different family tree then, Dan, because I'm seeing Daisy, Alyssane, Lyra, Jarell.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. I'm not on a family tree. I'm just on the wiki page for, it's on Mage Mormont.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other Mormonts, must be House Mormont.
Yeah. Their sigil is really cool.
It is cool.
Looks like who are the Hightowers?
Hightowers are Old Town.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I'm just reading this wrong. No. Yeah, Lyanna, Jarell, Lyra, and Alyssane.
Are those her sisters?
They must be.
Were they
It's
all
not
killed in the Red
significant.
Wedding?
The only one that's X'd out, indicating deceased, is Daisy Mormont. Mage and JR.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Huh.
Interesting.
We'll have to look into that more.
Yeah.
It might be like a book show.
Yeah, I'm sure
discrepancy.
there's
Could be.
differences there, because there's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Jorah now has a Valyrian steel sword.
Speaking of swords, going back to earlier in the episode, it was cool to see Greyjoy give Jaime Widow's Wail back. I don't know if you caught that.
I don't know. Did we catch that?
Great.
When Grey Worm gave, did I say
Oh.
Theon? When
Yeah.
Grey Worm gave Jaime his sword.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like after, like, okay, we're gonna let
Reluctantly.
you stay here. Yes. Yeah, that was a great moment.
Yeah, and he kind of snatched it and held
Yeah.
it up to
Held
himself.
it like, ooh.
Yep.
Take my
Yeah.
sword.
Yep. Yeah, so I guess the last scene is where Jon's in the crypts and Daenerys comes and finds him, knowing he'll be there, and
And he's standing in front of the statue of Lyanna.
yeah,
Lyanna
she's like,
Stark.
"Oh, who's that?" Well,
Yeah, it's
My mommy.
no.
Yeah.
And this is a great scene too, because he kind of slowly explains it and lets her kind of figure it out on her own before he actually says it. I think that was the right way to do this sort of thing, rather than just I'm actually the heir to the Iron Throne. If you're gonna do this, I think that's the way to do it.
yeah, no, he
was kind of like, so I Lyanna Stark obviously was quote unquote kidnapped by Rhaegar. Not actually kidnapped by Rhaegar.
Right. Well,
He was
Daenerys
married-
says, like, everyone said Rhaegar sang
Well,
and
yeah, it
danced and was a happy,
Yeah.
wonderful man and gave money to the poor. But yeah, everyone says he raped her. And he's like, oh, John's like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
And then he says the line, he loved her,
Yeah.
just like Bran said at the end of season 7. Yeah, so then he slowly lays it out. But this is where we see, again, Mad Queen coming
Yeah,
out.
a little bit. She gets a little defensive.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Your best friend and your brother
Yeah.
told you these things.
Yeah. Which, in all fairness to her, I would probably be suspicious of that
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
Okay, well, if my brother was the three-eyed raven,
Right. Yeah. I don't know to what extent she knows what Bran is capable of.
Yeah.
But also, I
Yeah.
think to an extent she kind of understands. I think deep down inside she probably does realize it's true. And
Yeah.
it coming from Jon, I don't. She knows him well enough to know that he wouldn't come to her with that if he wasn't sure
Right.
about it.
He's thoughtful.
Yeah.
And, like, he rode a dragon.
Yeah.
And, like, she had to have been wondering, like, why is my dragon just letting this guy, ride around on him like that, She has to wonder that.
Yeah.
Because the dragons,
Are for Targaryens.
are for Targaryens. So, yeah. Yeah.
But
and
they
then-
don't get to fully hash out their conversation.
Right.
They're interrupted by 3 horn blasts,
Dun,
meaning
dun,
the
dun.
arrival of the White Walkers and the army of the dead.
one more scene I think we should talk about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sure we missed
Yeah,
stuff,
I'm
so.
sure we missed.
What's the name of the tree again? I
The
Oh,
forgot.
the
That's-
werewood.
Werewood.
Oh,
Yeah.
When
Jaime
Bran's
and
at
Bran.
Werewood. Yeah, Jamie goes and apologizes for what he did, and Bran just kind of shrugs it off, and he's like, "Hey, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be the three-eyed raven."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
water under the bridge is how I took it. But then Jamie says something like, "Well, what's going to happen after?" And
Mhm.
Bran says, "You're assuming there's going to be an after."
Yeah.
And like the English minor in me is trying to like really read between the lines with that
Yeah.
phrase, because I can't imagine it means what it seems like it means on its head, like
Right.
Right.
we're all gonna die or Jamie's gonna die. I feel like there's more to it, and I started wondering like, well, maybe if there's no after, there's no before. Like maybe this battle doesn't happen here. Maybe they all retreat to. Maybe Dany gets so mad and like retreats to. Doesn't retreat, but just takes her army and marches towards King's Landing just to destroy Cersei.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that's probably very far-fetched, but I'm just trying to figure out like what is the actual meaning of that phrase,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because Bran is very cryptic.
Yes, he is.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. I don't like for him to just be like, there isn't an after, and it's like, well, the end,
Or
like
you're
there-
assuming
Yeah.
there's an after.
Yeah. Right. There's got to be. Who knows what he knows?
Right.
Like who knows? And again, like I always tell Dan, but like I read this theory, and like the closer we get to the end, the more I'm like, I think this theory that I saw, it's crazy, but like it just makes sense. And when Bran is saying like there might not be an after, and how you were saying like, was there even a before? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Because Bran can travel and can do whatever he can do. We don't even really know what he might have already done. So I don't know.
I just based on what we've seen in Game of Thrones, there's got to be at least one more big curveball, right?
Gotta
Yeah.
be.
It can't just be this big war, lots of people die,
Mm-hmm.
And then the aftermath.
and I don't know.
Brief aftermath.
Right. No, it can't. And that is my biggest fear, though, that it's gonna end and be like, okay, well, the war's over. But I know this show well enough that I have faith in it that it is not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just worry that it's gonna end on a question.
Yeah.
Like I want closure.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want it to end on like a I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened next.
I was saying, I'm on the Game of Thrones subreddit, and if someone asks a question like, what kind of ending would be disappointing for you? And while there's probably a lot of things that could happen that would disappoint me for the ending, I will hate the ending if it's the type of thing where it's whatever you want it to be.
Oh my God,
I
that would drive me
cannot
insane.
stand that in anything, and let alone a show I spent this much time watching and studying. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's movies that have done that where
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's an acceptable ending to me, but I'm with you 100% on this series that we've given so much of our lives to.
well, and I bring up, this is not a very good example, but what's that movie with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston? Is it The Breakup?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
breakup.
And like they see each other at the end of the movie after they had been split up for a while. They start
Spoilers.
talking. Well, it's been out for a while.
Yeah.
It's not a popular movie, but but it leaves you with that. It's like, what did they get back together, or did
Right.
they just
Like what?
talk? Like, what? Don't leave me hanging.
Right.
And that's just a stupid like hour and a half rom-com. You know,
Right.
it's infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll leave us hanging, because can you imagine like the outrage I feel like
Yeah.
that would come from that? I mean, they probably don't care because they're rolling in money,
Yeah.
but
I mean, some questions are
but
fine.
I think
but
they obviously care, you know.
Yeah.
some questions are fine, but
Right.
I don't want a ambiguous ending.
Yeah.
Speaking of rolling in money, I thought that going back to last episode, I've heard this little nugget that I thought was hilarious. You remember when Cersei says, like, asks about the elephants, and he's like, oh, the elephants are really expensive. Apparently that was a knock at HBO because the Double D's wanted the money to do elephants.
All the CGI.
Yeah, and HBO wouldn't give it to them, so they called it out in the episode.
That's
Nice.
fantastic.
I thought that was
great.
hysterical.
That's so
One
good.
more quick thing that we forgot to talk about that I was interested in, and I don't even know, this might not even mean anything, but the part, I think it's after the War Council, everyone's leaving, and Tyrion and Bran stay in the room
Yes.
and have a conversation. You know, Tyrion wants to know about Bran's journey, but I wonder what other kind of, Tyrion being the intellectual that he is, I wonder what kind of information he also was able to glean from Bran, or what sort of stuff he found out from Bran, or if that even matters. It might not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because he was like, if only we were stuck in a castle.
Yeah,
with
in the
nothing
winter
to,
with
in
nothing to
winter
do.
with nothing to do. Yeah, I mean, you know, and I think back to the start of the show, and I think of the books primarily. Like, there was a lot of question about Tyrion, right, and his parents.
yeah, a
So,
little bit.
I mean, it
Yeah,
would be interesting
true.
if he pursued that, but I can't see him having time in 4 episodes to pursue. Because remember, the dragons were also friendly with him,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Apparently, the Mad King had a thing for what's her name, Lannister. The mom,
the mom,
Yeah.
whose name
Lo-
is escaping me right now, Joanna.
Joanna.
Yeah,
So there's also that.
yeah.
But yeah, next week's episode looks like there's going to be some deaths. Do you want to
Maybe.
Do you want
That could be the big curveball. Nobody dies.
Nobody dies.
Well, and Tyrion does say when they're around the fire, he's like, "I think we're going to live," and they all crack up, and he's like, "No, really, I do."
Yeah, look how many
Yeah.
possible odds we've survived as a group.
Right.
Well, and he at that point he had the conversation with Bran, right?
Yeah,
right.
So, he-
Yeah. I
maybe
don't
he's
know.
privy to some information. But the big thing floating around now is people don't think the Night King is actually going to be at the Battle of Winterfell. They think he is headed south to King's Landing on the back of a dragon.
Yep.
And that's going to stir some stuff up down there.
I like that, and
Isn't that
I
great?
yeah, I'm inclined to believe it because when the
Mhm.
army shows up, like, who would you lead with if he was there?
Yeah.
The night.
Right. Yeah, there's no sign of him.
Oh,
It makes sense, you know. And also, I think I was thinking about, remember when Dany is with the guy with the purple lips,
The House of the Undying.
the House of the Undying, and she goes through all those
Warlocks.
like doors, and like she's in with her son and Khal Drogo in one of them, but she is in the throne
Yeah,
room,
throne room.
the throne room, and you can see like the ceiling is all busted through with something, and it's snowing in there, so
ooh, yeah.
who
point.
knows? That could have been a foreshadow, because the show foreshadows all over the place.
That's good. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Excited.
Just a thought. I know. Like my heart was racing. Like on Sunday, as soon as it started, I was like, I don't know. And then it was so mellow, and I was like, okay, but next week is going to be crazy. I think it's going to be crazy.
Because you know the battle is starting next episode.
Yeah. And what was that thing that I sent you? The information about the battle. Let me find it.
It's the longest continuous battle sequence in cinema history.
Longest battle sequence in film or TV history. Boasts the most characters since the pilot. And it's longer than the Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep Siege.
Whew.
Yeah.
Man, how am I going to settle in for that?
I know. And I think I read it took them 58 days to film it.
Yeah.
Just the battle scene. And I don't know if that'll extend over 2 episodes or how that's, who knows.
I wonder what the current record is, because that would probably indicate roughly how long.
It's 40-something minutes, I think.
Is the current record?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we watched Helm's Deep enough. We should know that.
I read it somewhere. It's 46 minutes or 42 minutes or something like that.
So it could be in a single episode, but
be,
maybe not. Maybe it's all 4 episodes.
It's the longest episode of the series.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, next week.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the 86-minute one, I think.
Nice. That's fantastic.
So,
oh man,
buckle in.
I am so ready, and there's so many juicy things in the preview. I feel like that. Wow. Yeah.
I didn't watch when do they play the previews?
After.
Mm-hmm.
After the inside the episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it before that? I don't know.
Yeah. But
we never watch after. As soon as the credits roll, we turn it off.
Yeah,
so.
we usually do too, but we left it on for whatever reason this time.
Yeah, definitely give it a watch because there's some interesting things in there. Of course, when you see them in the grand scheme, it isn't what you thought usually, but
yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, that's it. That's everything, right? Any other thoughts?
I think so.
Oh, I just wanted to throw in there that I did say this was actually probably in my top 5 favorite episodes of the entire show. Which also got me thinking that it might be interesting when it's all over to maybe go back and talk about our favorite episodes, especially once we know the ending.
Yeah.
But right now, as it stands, this was one of my absolute favorite episodes, and I don't know why, other than I love the characters, I guess, and it just was some character time before they all die or whatever.
Go off to battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right, so yeah, that'll do it for this week's Game of Thrones recap. We'll be doing the same next week.